Hi guys, it's Rick Shiels down here at Quest Golf Academy here at Pro Sports Village. I'm going to do a first look and the first hit of the new Taylormade M3 driver and the M4 driver. I've got the fairway woods of each as well, hybrids and a new set of iron each. Stay tuned to the channel because I'm going to do videos on all of that coming soon. Subscribe, it's probably the best way of staying in contact with the channel. Taylormade M3. I'm going to start with this one first, I'm going to move into the M4. This is going to be a first look. I'm going to hit some shots, and I'm going to do about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, once I've given it a real in-depth test and review, come back to you with my findings. So I'm going to kind of change it around this year a little bit. It's going to be an initial look. So underneath the hood, underneath the cover, we see the new M3 driver. So this is replacing the M1 driver. It was pretty successful, in truth be told, and they've given it a facelift. It's the first thing to see. They've changed the colour of it. It's still got the carbon crown, the multi-composite carbon crown. Instead of the white border, they've gone for more of a silver, which looks pretty smart. I don't think everyone's going to agree, but I think that looks pretty smart. The bottom, they featured a little bit more carbon. And instead of their traditional T-track weight system, they've introduced what they're calling a Y-track system, which is giving more adjustability. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. They've also got a new feature, it kind of says in here, Hammerhead. Oh, they come up with some great names, don't they? I'll come back to that in a second as well. On first inspection, it looks like a brother of the M1. You know, it doesn't look like it's changed enormously. Brother from a different family, maybe stepbrother, but it kind of has that same kind of look to it to a degree. It'll be really interesting to see how it does compared to the M1 and how they've changed the technology. Because the big story around this driver and the M4 is about direction. It's about forgiveness. And I've never really known Taylormade to talk about that too much. They're always on about distance with drivers. Well, they're talking about now how they can help you hit the fairway more, which is an interesting idea. And it comes down to this bit of technology. So there's 3 new pieces of technology in both of the drivers. We'll start off with the M3 first. And this is the main bit of technology. This is the face. Believe it or not, that is a massively over-exaggerated, enlarged effect of the face that's on this M3 driver. And when you look closely on the M3, it doesn't look like this, but I'm using this as an illustration because this is now, what Taylormade is saying, is their movement forward in a new era of bulge and roll. So this is called Squished Face. Again, great name. But what they've done, they've decided to have a look at where golfers hit shots if they don't hit the middle of the face. And what their research has shown is golfers hit high toe and low heel if they don't hit the middle, which, to be fair, as a golf coach, I would agree. I see a lot of golfers hit high toe. I see a lot of golfers hit low heel. And what they're claiming to have done is make it more forgiving for that golfer. So in the toe section, they've slanted it backwards and added more loft and pointed it further to the right. And in the heel, they've made the loft less and pointed it further to the left. Because what happens when you hit off-centered hits is the face twists and it creates gearing effects between the ball and the face. And that causes curvature of the golf ball that will miss target. So that's where the original bulge and roll came in. And roll is more for the spin characteristics. And what they've done is, on robot testing, that kind of works. With bulge and roll on a robot, if you hit the toe, it starts to the right and curves back to the middle. If you hit the heel, it starts to the left and curves back to the middle. But on real golfers, what they've discovered, this is what they're saying, is that guys who hit high toe are more likely to have the face closed, and the guy who hits low heel is more likely to hit the ball with a face open. So your slicer hits more towards low heel, and your guy who maybe hooks it hits more towards high toe. So this is kind of what they've come up with. They've come up with this idea. And you'll see a lot of the marketing spiel around Taylormade driver this year, around this. This is kind of what it is. And the simplest sense I'm going to try and explain this to you. If a golfer hits up here, which I am definitely one of those golfers that hits high toe, what they're claiming it's going to do, because they know the ball's going to start curving to the left, is that's going to start the ball further to the right with more launch. Interesting idea. Then you get a golfer who hits low heel. And a low heel golfer is typically a golfer that would slice it, like I mentioned before. And now that ball's going to start further left, a little bit lower, to reduce the spin of the shot as well. Now on paper, that sounds great. Got no problems around that at all. I'm interested to test it because I know for a fact, me for certain, when I hit high toe, I don't always hit it with the face closed. I can hit high toe with the face open, and I've seen many golfers do it. I want to see what the effects are then as well. That's going to be really interesting. I think there's a benefit to this. It's just whether, is it going to be a benefit for everybody? We will wait and see around that. But that's the big story around these drivers this year. It's about direction, about finding fairways. It's going to be a hard story to tell. I've tried to do it as best I can then, and I'll do a little bit more down the line, but that's as best as I can tell it right now. When you look at it on the club face, unless you're really looking for it, you can't see how exaggerated it looks in that little plastic exaggerated club face. You can't see it like that. It doesn't look anywhere near as much as that. We then have the Y-Tech track, which I was explaining before. Now, in last year's model of the M1, you could move 27 grams of weight, 15 in the front, 12 at the back. You can now only move 22 grams of weight. Both these weights are 11 grams. You can put them in the front, you can put them in the back, you can put them in towards the toe, back heel, and that you can also split them at the back to give more forgiveness. I want to know what you think about that idea and what your thoughts around that are. Comment below what do you think about this weight tracking system. Because I thought the T-track worked quite well. It's interesting now they're trying to change it to the Y-track. Is it going to have a massive effect? And the last piece of technology I mentioned before is the Hammerhead. This is a slot that sits behind the head, and this is to protect ball speed on off-centered hits. So if you don't hit it well, this is supposed to still protect ball speed. I don't believe that's new. We've seen that on drivers before. Titleist, for example, their 917 range had this slot, and I think even the 915 range had a kind of similar slot. So that's interesting they've brought that in. That used to be looked after by that forward, the top of the tee, but they've now put the Hammerhead in there. Another interesting idea as well, and an interesting thought that I've done some research on, is rumour has it that Taylormade aren't the first guys to do a twisted kind of face. Rumour has it, Cobra have done it in the past, but they've never been as public about it. It's interesting. I want to hear a bit more about that. But they're just rumours at the moment. But Taylormade are claiming they're the first, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll hit some shots with the M3 coming soon. This M3 comes in standard the 10 size shaft, which is a pretty special shaft to be fair. So that's the M3, and that's kind of got the little kind of blue features to it on the M3 driver. M4, so under this rascal. M4 now is going to replace M2. And I think many people would agree M2 was probably the most popular out of the M1 and M2 series last year, and even the year before. I was not a big fan of last year's M2 at all because I didn't like how unsymmetrical it was. They've gone back to a design now with the M4 where it's way more symmetrical. And like previous models of the M2, now moving into M4, this is not adjustable in any way apart from the changing of the neck. So you can change the neck by going up and down by 4 degrees, as you can with the M3. But this has got none of the adjustable weights at the bottom. It still features the same twist face. It still features Hammerhead. The technology that they're claiming that M4 features, which I wouldn't class it as a technology if I'm truth be told, is G-acoustic. And G-acoustic is really just an enhancement of sound. They're claiming that the M4 is louder, it's more explosive sound. We'll see if that's the case. I like the look of the M4. It has a little bit more kind of red little accents on it. I think it looks very smart. Not as good as the original M2. I still think the original M2 was the best looking. Last year's M2 wasn't as great. This year's new M4, it's an improvement of last year's, but it still could be refined. It'll be interesting to see how many players kind of go for each. Now, prices on these, I've never really talked about prices on reviews before, but I'm going to do now moving into 2018. For the M3, and this is the manufacturer recommended retail price. So typically you'll see these drop a little bit as they go into store. For the M3, you're looking at $499 or £479. So what you're looking for with the M3. M4, like its brothers in the past, has always been a little bit cheaper. This is coming in at $429 or £369. And that's just because it's not got as much adjustability. Now the M4 comes in the Atmos shaft as standard. And again, I've been told this is a pretty decent shaft. I don't really know. This is the Fujikura Atmos shaft, and that comes in standard with the M4. And the one thing I can't kind of stop getting my head around, and when I pick them up side by side, it almost even more reinforced, is how much these drivers have like a BMW branding about them. They really kind of have that M3, M4, again, the letters and numbers that BMW have used, and colours systems that BMW have used. But from what I've been told, there's no connection with BMW at all with these drivers. Just can't help but think they look so much like BMW branding. Let's give them a hit. I'm going to hit them on GC Quad, Pro V1s, and just going to give you an initial idea of the hits. I want to get some of your questions in about these clubs, because I'm going to answer them in the more in-depth review coming in a couple of weeks' time. Let's give them a smack, let's give them a hit, let's see how they feel in the initial hitting. I'll give them a brief summary. Let's go on M3 first. Okay, I know that was a lot of listening to spiel, to technology and what's changed and what's not changed. That's kind of bits that we don't really need to care about. It's actually how it performs, how it feels, and how it sounds, how it looks. Head cover is the boxing glove head cover as we've seen, and it's got that kind of branding that M3 and M4 is different. It's obviously got the M4 branding on there. Good quality. I'm still not a biggest fan of those boxing glove head covers. Right, M3, initial hits. I'm just going to hit like 5 shots. Just give you my initial thoughts on the feel, the sound, the flight, because I want to give more information to the viewer. So I want to test it way more in depth next time. So the next review that's going to come out in about 2 weeks, we're going to go really, really into the bones of the club. So initial hitting, I've got this in 9.5 in the M3. The weight's in their standard setting, which is one at the front, one in the kind of back middle. I've got the 10 size shaft in this in X. Let's give it a rip. So I've got Pro V1s, GC Quad. I'll show you some ball flights, but I'm not going to dive too much into the data. Right. M3, first hits. It's not a bad shot. No, it's not a bad shot. It feels really, really similar to M1, like feel and sound to M1. I'm kind of warming to that look as well, that kind of silver. Like I said, I've always liked that contrast of carbon and white, and I do like that silver. I think it gives it a nice little twist. It gives it quite a modern twist. One thing I do notice on the top of the club is like a bit of a kind of a flared out section as well towards the toe. From what I've seen, that's helping with aerodynamics across the head. It's quite subtle. You don't notice it at first, but there's a little kind of up step almost, which the old M1 and old M2 did not have. Let's hit one more with the M3. It's not the shot I wanted to see. That was a high toe and it missed right. Okay, so M4 first hit. And like I say, apart from the number on the head cover, nothing changes. I've put the same shaft in this. This is the 10 size shaft that I've just hit the M3 in as well to give it a bit of a fair comparison. I've got it 9.5 degrees of loft, and that's the only thing I can change. This still features twist face, like I mentioned, hammerhead, and the technology that the only thing that's different is G-acoustic. So we've either got Y-track or G-acoustic. I still don't see that as a technology. I would only imagine that's just acoustics, really. Let's give it a hit, see how it does it sound any different? It does look smart. The only thing you can sense that it's different from the M3 is these little accents at the back. This is a red, little kind of accents and features, where the M3 is more of a blue little bits of features. Right, let's give this a hit. Looks identical to the M3 as it has done kind of the M2 and M1 in the past. There's no difference from the top at all. And I'll tell you what, I didn't hit that very centered. I actually hit that a long way at the toe. Now that's all right. That's impressed me. That has impressed me. It's given me a glimmer of hope this face twist might be seriously working. Because that was not a good hit at all. Right, let's give a few more. I didn't get any sound difference on that one, but I didn't strike it well. Oh, that one I did. And I'll tell you what, it's definitely more explosive sound. It's louder sound. A little bit up the left, but that sounded way different. Much louder than the M3. That's the one I'm a little bit worried about. When I catch toe with an open face, I could imagine it leaking a little bit too far right. Right, initial testing done with M3 and M4. Initial thoughts, pretty good. Pretty solid numbers. I was getting some good flight, some good distance. I've not, dived into loads of data in this video because I want to do that a little bit more down the line and offer more information for you guys to make better choices. Feel and sound so similar to M1 and M2. There was a definite different noise between these two. M4 was much louder, noticeably louder as well. Now the twist face, there was a couple of shots that intrigued me. M3 not so much. I know the same technology, but I'd kind of hit them okay with M3, not massive amounts of, getting too far towards the toe or the heel. But M4, there was a shot that I hit from the toe, the first shot, that came back to middle. And I honestly, in my head, would have normally seen that miss further left. I would imagine, I was looking up and thinking, that's got to have hooked left, and it hadn't done. But then the final shot, I hit similar location with the face open, not closed like I did the first shot. And that shot went a long way right. And that scares me because this whole idea of twist face is for the guy who hits high toe with a closed face, low heel with an open face. And that's not always the exception. It's not always the exception. As always, get fitted and try these products yourself. I always advise that, but I want to give you as much information as I can to help you decide. As a summary, I like the look of the drivers. It's grown on me. Certainly the silver I'm a big fan of. I love the fact that now symmetrical at the bottom. I like the fact they've kept the top of the crown. Some of the words they've used, they're not always necessary, but it kind of tells the story to a degree. I'm intrigued to do more testing. And I want to know what you guys want me to test. So comment below, what do you want me to test on these drivers? Do you want me to test the weight track? Do you want me to test the loft? Do you want me to test the toe, the heel, whatever it may be? Let me know in the comments below. What are the questions you have about these drivers? And I will try and cover some of the really good ones in the in-depth test video coming in about 2 weeks' time. M3 and M4, they are top of the price range, as we know. I think they've had a small facelift from the M1 and M2 and slight bits of technology change. I think it's going to be a really interesting story, hearing more about face twist and certainly getting golfers trying face twist. Will they get their head around it or will it blow their mind? Guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the videos coming this year, because we're really going to go dive right into the the core of equipment testing this year. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. Lots more to come. And that was the Taylormade M3, M4 drivers. We've got lots more of these M3, M4s coming your way soon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.